I never imagined my calm suburban routine would spiral into a full-blown high-stakes drama. But that's exactly what unfolded when our neighborhood's tyrannical HOA decided to step over a line no one should ever cross. It began with something petty, an absurd complaint about the color of my kid's brand-new swing set. Apparently, forest green didn't fall within the HOA's approved palette of nature-inspired tones. First came the warning notice, then a fine. I formally disputed it, calmly and respectfully. That was Karen's opening move, the self-crowned queen of the HOA. I didn't realize then that it was only the beginning of her personal campaign against me. Soon, the violations multiplied. A citation for my garden gnomes being aesthetic disturbances. A fine because my car tire extended half an inch past the driveway boundary. It was laughable if it hadn't been so relentless. I tried to approach the board with reason and logic, presenting my case without anger, but Karen and her loyal followers were immovable. They fed off authority, often forcing trivial rules to make residents' lives difficult. The neighborhood lived in quiet anxiety. People whispered about Karen's latest crackdown, but were too intimidated to challenge her. They'd seen the consequences: escalating fines, liens placed on homes, nonstop harassment for anyone who dared push back. I'm not someone who seeks confrontation. I respect structure and rules. But I also value fairness and basic decency, and our HOA had abandoned both. So I began documenting everything. Every unreasonable notice, every unfounded fine, every condescending email Karen sent. I was quietly building a record, though I still hoped it wouldn't come to a legal showdown. I simply wanted peace for my family. My children, thankfully, were unaware of the tension. They adored their swing set, the very thing that had sparked this entire mess. Then, one bright afternoon, everything changed. I was working from home, on a conference call in my office, when I heard my kids laughing in the backyard. Then, suddenly, silence. The kind of silence that makes your stomach drop. Instinct took over. I rushed to the window and saw the back gate standing wide open. My 7-year-old son and my 5-year-old daughter were gone. Panic flooded through me. I shouted their names, searched every room, bolted out the front door, heart hammering in my chest. There was no sign of them. I called 911, my voice shaking as I tried to explain that my children had disappeared. Before the police arrived, a neighbor I barely knew ran toward me, pale and breathless. She told me she had seen Karen leading my children out of my yard. According to her, Karen claimed she was taking them to the community clubhouse because they were unsupervised and being disruptive. Unsupervised? I had been 20 feet away in my office. They were laughing, not causing trouble. The clubhouse, of course, another display of authority. But this time she had crossed a terrifying line. I sprinted there. The doors were locked. I pounded on them, demanding Karen open up and let my children out. Through the glass, I heard my daughter crying. A cold, consuming fury unlike anything I'd felt before surged through me. This was no longer about HOA nonsense. This was about my children. When the police arrived, I explained everything in a rush. At first, they treated it like a typical neighborhood conflict. But the moment they heard the muffled sobs coming from inside the locked building, their attitude shifted completely. They ordered Karen to open the door. She stood inside with her arms folded, a smug expression fixed on her face. She claimed she was exercising HOA authority to maintain community safety. The officers were not amused. They informed her that detaining my children against my will was not community oversight. It was unlawful imprisonment. That smugness finally cracked. When the officers threatened to force entry, Karen unlocked the door. My children ran straight into my arms, crying. I held them tightly, whispering that they were safe, that I was there. Over their shoulders, I saw Karen being placed in handcuffs. The satisfaction was real, but it was overshadowed by the horror of what she had done. She had taken my children to assert power, used them as leverage in her petty kingdom. The next morning, I didn't just file a report. I escalated everything. Karen and the HOA board had made one fatal mistake. They never bothered to find out who they were targeting. They assumed I was just another suburban mom they could intimidate. They didn't know that the conference call I'd been on wasn't some ordinary corporate meeting. They didn't know that in my professional life, people stand when I enter the room and address me as Your Honor. Yes, I am a federal judge, and Karen had illegally detained the children of a federal judge. I filed a sweeping civil lawsuit, not just against the HOA as an entity, but against each board member individually. Charges included unlawful imprisonment, emotional distress harassment, and several additional claims my legal team prepared. The news spread rapidly through the neighborhood. The once dominant HOA began to unravel. Board members resigned in disgrace, facing the very real threat of financial devastation. Karen's reign ended as dramatically as it had begun. The legal process moved swiftly. With undeniable evidence and the weight of their mistake hanging over them, their attorneys advised immediate settlement, and a substantial one. The existing HOA structure was dissolved and rebuilt from the ground up, this time led by reasonable individuals who understood that a community is meant to foster cooperation, not control. And the swing set? It's still there, bright forest green and completely untouched. My kids play on it every day. Whenever I watch them laughing in the yard, I'm reminded of that terrifying afternoon. But I'm also reminded that sometimes protecting your peace requires standing your ground. And when someone threatens your family, you use every tool at your disposal. They chose the wrong mother to intimidate, and they definitely chose the wrong judge. Thank you for listening to my story.